fight alone will make us rich beyond our wildest dreams.
My city screams. And it ain't the only one screaming. No, we're all screaming here at the Disenfranchised Podcast. That podcast all about those franchises of one. Those films that fancy themselves full-fledged franchises before falling flat on their face after the first film. I am your host, Stephen Foxworthy, kicking off a brand new theme month, our first theme month of 2025. But before we get into all of that, I first need to introduce my co-host. What is it with him and women? Maybe he'll tell us. It's Tucker. Hey, Tucker.
Hi, Steven. Respect.
Is that what it is?
Oh, wait. I thought we were still talking about body. Damn.
Oh, okay. Respect.
Respect.
No, we did that last week, man. We got to move on to other things. I would say bigger and better, but this movie is somehow neither.
It's not. And speaking of bodied, I want to apologize to the audience. I edited the episode, and it's very entertaining, but I was clearly too inebriated. That was a late record.
That was a late record.
It was a late record, and I misjudged. Because if I'm watching the show or something and it's late, I'm just hitting. I'm not even thinking about how much I'm hitting the pin, right?
Right. And I do remember you hitting the pin quite a lot, and I didn't think much of it at the time. But yeah, in retrospect, you were hitting it quite a bit.
It was a lot. Yeah, it came out fine, but I knew that I was a little too far gone. I could have been a little more present, is what I'm saying.
Touche. I mean, speaking of inebriated, I am on my second rum and coke of the evening. So,
well, speaking of rum, I have a shot of rum right here.
Well, let's do a little toast.
Let's have a toast
to this new theme month on which we are embarking tonight. Clink.
Don't.
And believe you me, listener, we're going to need it for tonight because we're starting this one off with a whimper of a movie. In fact, well, let me get into the theme month first. We're doing a superhero theme month because it's been a hot minute since we've done just a bunch of superhero movies all in a row. So we're doing an American superhero theme month with some of the great American superheroes. And I use the word great fairly loosely because we're going to be talking about a few duds, I have a feeling, over the course of this month. But we do have a couple of great guests scheduled for this month. So it's going to be
true.
Time. We're going to have a good time.
I'm pretty excited about a few of these.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, everyone except for I was excited about this one before I watched it.
Oh, fair enough.
Because I had never seen it. And like I said before the record, usually if everybody hates a movie, I go into it with an open mind and I'll find a bunch of stuff that I like about it.
Yeah.
I'll probably admit that it's not good.
Sure.
But I'll be like, yeah, but I dug it.
Right.
But this movie, I did not dig this movie.
No, this movie,
at all.
This is a movie that I have mentioned on this podcast before. I've never walked out of a movie that I saw in a theater in my life. But this is the movie I came closest to doing so. It is the 2008 Frank Miller film based on Will Eisner's classic comic book superhero, The Spirit.
Now, before we go into that, can I tell you I've only walked out of one movie?
Oh, yeah?
And it's kind of funny. The Comic Carnival. No, it was Downtown Comics, the one in Greenwood.
Oh yeah,
I don't know if it's still there.
It's Comic Book University now, and I'm pretty sure Rob has retired.
Oh no, I'm talking about. Maybe it wasn't there.
No,
I don't know.
It's the Downtown Comics was the one on the. It was there was a little strip mall off of
the one where
County Line and 135.
And there's a Dollar Tree now there, and it used to be a Walgreens.
Correct.
That same place.
Yes.
And there's that shitty idiot bar.
Yeah.
There on the end.
He moved over to which is now a burger place.
Full of idiots.
He moved over.
Nice.
That the idiot bar is now a burger place.
Yeah.
He moved over to over by where the Galleons was, and renamed it to the store Comic Book University.
Well, it was Comic Book University before he moved.
Was it?
I'm pretty sure. Yeah, because I followed him.
Oh, that's right.
Move.
Yeah.
Yeah. Recently, you were saying that somebody else took over.
Yeah, I think he retired
there. Like,
recently. I think I saw
yeah,
online that he retired.
well, remember we were chatting about it in the group chat when he said he was closing up shop, and we were like, "Oh shit, that sucks." This was like not last Christmas, but Christmas before last.
Right. I remember us
And then I
having that
think
conversation.
when we met this Christmas, you told me that. Did you tell me? Somebody told me that somebody else is taking it over, and it's called something else now, but it's still a comic book store.
It might have been Brett, because I know Brett went there as well. Like I have a feeling like we all remembered Rob, like independently
Rob
of
was
each
the
other.
shit,
Rob was
dude.
good dude.
Love that guy.
I used to make fun
He
of him for
was
dating people way too young for him.
well, Rob's kind of like me, to where he kind of has had the emotional intelligence of a teenager and
Very
the
much.
interests of a teenager.
Yes.
And that's why I just stopped dating after my 30s,
Smart.
because that's not appropriate. And let me tell you, I'm not the one who approaches women either. They
Right.
approach me. So I'm like, "No, sorry. I'm a forced asexual now, because that's weird. So go on somewhere, please."
Yeah, it looks like Comic Book University. The website says 2005 to 2024, but
Maybe it's still called Comic Book University.
they're still
Maybe
posting.
somebody just bought him out.
They're still posting new releases and stuff. So
Yeah, that's wild.
But yeah, I remember the last time I saw him, we were chatting, and he goes, "Yeah, I got to go to my girlfriend's graduation." I was like, "Oh, high school?" And he just laughed, and he gave me a big hug. He's like, "Dude, I miss you." But yeah,
Wowzers.
But yeah, so
the reason I bring it up
Yeah.
is that Downtown Comics used to give away a lot of free passes
Right.
to new movies that were coming up. That's a whole other story. I almost saw Shoot 'Em Up because of that. I saw a bunch of other movies early at like preview screenings with free tickets from Downtown Comics, and one of them was Perfect Stranger. And unfortunately, it was not a movie remake of the sitcom
right,
with Larry and Balky,
Cousin Larry Appleton.
because that would be ridiculous.
Don't be ridiculous.
Yeah, so it's this movie with Halle Berry and the Rocketeer, and the Rocketeer beats the fuck out of Halle Berry.
Oh no, with Bruce Willis?
Yeah, no, wait, I'm thinking of something else. But Halle Berry's no. See, I get those two movies mixed up because they have the same color palette. But anyway, Perfect Stranger has Halle Berry and Bruce Willis and Giovanni Ribisi.
And star of this movie, Richard Portnow.
Oh yeah, he's in that too.
Mm-hmm.
You see, I walked out of that about 20 minutes in because the filmmakers thought I was so stupid that I wouldn't remember something that happened. I'm not kidding, 30 seconds earlier. They flashed back to something 30 seconds earlier, and I was like, "Nope, I'm out. You don't treat me like that. Come on. Come on. You insulted my intelligence. I'm out of here." But it was free. If I had paid for it, I would have stayed for the entire film.
Right. And that's kind of where I landed with The Spirit, is like, I paid for this. So damn. And I was with friends. So I'm like, I'm honor bound to stay. This is from the guy who directed Glengarry Glen Ross, one of my favorite ensemble films of all time. He also directed an episode of Twin Peaks, but like late season 2 Twin Peaks. So
yeah.
And then he also went on to direct not the first, but the last 2 films in the 50 Shades series.
Oh, cool.
That's the last thing he's directed as of right now, is
neat.
50 Shades Free. Yeah, I thought you might like that.
I'm glad he's, working and stuff. Whatever. Do what you can. Get that money.
That's it.
King.
That's it. Get it.
Old king.
So we're talking about 2008's The Spirit, directed and written by Frank Miller, he of Sin City fame, and starring
Dark Knight Returns fame.
Yes. And starring Gabriel Macht, Samuel L. Jackson, Scarlett Johansson, Ava Mendes, Sarah Paulson, Dan Lauria, Stana Katic, Louis Lombardi, Jamie King, Paz Vega, and the aforementioned Richard Portnow, with cameos from Frank Miller, DC Comics president Paul Levitz, and cinematographer Bill Pope. What a cast.
Nice, getting everybody there.
What a picture. Oh, yeah. Oh yeah.
Frank Miller's weird. Like everything that he does, it's literally either hit or miss. There's no in between with Frank Miller. It's either brilliant or it's shit.
And he hasn't had a hit in a hot minute, honestly.
I mean, like you compare the because the Dark Knight Returns had a sequel, and Dark Knight Returns was brilliant.
Mhm.
The sequel was shit.
Even though the sequel did have my favorite comic book superhero of all time in it, Frank Miller doesn't know how to
Plastic
write him.
Man.
Plastic Man, my
Plastic
boy.
Man.
Exactly.
You know who does know how to write it? And I'm just gonna keep pushing you to this until you watch it. The writers on Batman Brave and the Bold.
Okay.
They know how to write Plastic Man. That's your Plastic Man show, dude, because he shows up several times in each season.
I have a VHS tape, a pirated VHS tape that a friend of mine may or may not have procured from the Comic Carnival, the other comic book store in Indianapolis.
Yes, dude.
Of bootleg Plastic Man episodes.
Oh, nice.
From the Plastic Man Comedy Adventure Hour from the 80s.
Well, that's Comic Carnival had all those bootlegs back in the day. Like if it wasn't available commercially, like that's how I first saw the Clerks animated series. Is I bought a bootleg from Comic Carnival, but you best believe as soon as it came out commercially, my ass bought it.
Correct.
I've purchased that motherfucker thrice now, so I hope Kevin Smith is happy with my money. I bought it on VHS and I bought it twice on DVD because I borrowed that shit out and somebody did not return it.
Those bitches. I am actually going to look up and see if the Plastic Man show is available on DVD, because if it is, I didn't
even know that there was a Plastic Man show. When did that come out?
I think it was the 80s, honestly. The complete collection, it's $54.63 on DVD. That is a little rich for my blood.
Barf.
I know.
And you don't even have a CRT, so like why even buy a DVD?
I mean, because it's Plastic Man and he's my favorite my favorite comic book superhero.
Watch it on your computer. That'd probably be your best bet.
Be it. Yeah. He's instead of Woozy Wings, his perennial comic book sidekick, he's got a guy called Hula Hula, who is a Hawaiian gentleman, as you might imagine, whose superpower is that he has perennially bad luck.
You know, his weird, goofy, old short man sidekick shows up in Batman Brave and the Bold. Just saying.
Woozy Winks.
He's there.
Put some respect on
it. Full effect.
I'm just saying, Woozy Wings.
Yeah, dude. I'm just saying that if you are a true Plastic Man fan, Steven, that you really need to get on that Brave and the Bold.
First of all, how the fuck dare you?
You have no idea how much you're gonna love the shit out of that show.
You're right. I probably will, but there's a lot of TV, and
you're gonna love it.
I'm so busy these days, man.
Dude, they draw from everything so much that they bring in villains like from the Adam West TV show. Like King Tut shows up.
Oh, that's cool.
And fucking what's the hypnotizy guy? No, Egghead.
Yeah, from the
Egghead shows up.
The original cartoon or the original the live action show with Adam West.
Yes.
Biff Pow.
There's all the ones that I can remember that specifically were created for the 66 TV series show up.
Does Maxie Zeus show up?
I think so.
Because that's a pull, man. Maxie Zeus.
I think so. It's really great because they pull from all of the Golden Age comics, all the weird shit, and all the modern shit, and everything in between. Every incarnation of Batman is represented in some way, and it's really fantastic.
That's cool. I do have my favorite incarnation of Batman, and it's the one that Neil Adams drew, because Neil Adams knew how to do it. Gets a special thanks in this movie, Neil Adams does.
I'm sure he shows up when Batmite is just like cycling through.
Oh, I'm sure.
There's a moment where he's just like cycling through different Batmans. Though I think the best moment on the series is when Batmite explains like the making of the series. There's a scene where Batmite is at Comic-Con and he's explaining to the fans like why the show is good. It's really rad.
One of my favorite comics I ever got. It was an Evan Dorkin comic. It was written by Evan Dorkin, he of Milk and Cheese fame, and he wrote it was Batmite versus Mr. Mixius Pitlick, and it was called World's Funnest.
Oh, yeah.
and they basically cycle through every different, like so many different versions of the DC universe, and just like end up destroying the multiverse. And it's like Frank Miller draws a couple pages, like they just farm out
Nice.
pages to like every artist out there. And Alex Ross does a couple, like they end up in the Kingdom Come universe.
Nice.
Like it's
Fuck yeah.
so fun. And I've that's one I've bought twice. I've bought that comic twice too, because it is one of my favorite. I had to sell off all my comics when I was poor in the early aughts, or I guess early 2010s. Had to sell off all my comics, and I rebought that one because that one is just one of my favorites.
Nice.
I need to. If I weren't in the middle of moving, I would find it and reread it, because damn it, that book is fun. Actually, you know what? I have access to DC Infinite. I might see if I can find it
There you
there
go.
and reread it.
Check it out. Yeah, dude.
That book is
That's
fun as
fantastic.
hell, and I highly recommend it to everyone
Bet.
listening. More than I recommend the movie we're supposed to be talking about today,
No, fuck that
The
movie.
Spirits. Yeah, so this is a movie that I saw in the movie theater the day it came out. I saw this movie on Christmas Day 2008.
Woof.
Yep. I was actually very excited for this movie before it came out, because I was a big fan of older comics, and I was looking for an excuse to get into the spirit. So I bought, DC actually released ahead of the release of this film a trade paperback of like the essential issues of the spirit, because most of them were one-offs, and it featured characters like Sans Serif and the Octopus and Silken Floss, like all the characters. Plaster of Paris was in it. Like all the characters you see in this movie were featured in the various issues there. The difference between the comics and the movie is that the comics were fucking good. Will Eisner is one of the like early standout comic illustrators and writers, because he's the guy who was really infusing. People like him and Jack Cole, the creator of Plastic Man, are the guys who were really kind of infusing those early comics with like a lot of creativity. They weren't just interested in sticking to the panels. They were doing these really very ambitious and crazy splash pages and stuff like that, and really kind of pushing the medium forward in a way that few people were in the 40s and 50s. Which
Well,
is
of course he's a big deal. He's got an award named after him.
right.
Not everybody gets an award named after them.
Exactly. And that's how you know he is a big deal. Like
Will Eisner and Dr. Dre. Like, there's not many.
And Victor Hugo.
That too, yeah.
Yeah.
And Rondo Hatton.
There you go. So, you know,
there's a Rondo Award.
Exactly. So that's kind of where we're at, like in terms of the level that this guy's operating at. And I would say he's probably the most influential artist in comics. Like everybody that's drawn comics is influenced by someone who's influenced by Will Eisner.
Yeah.
And I mean, Eisner was a really big deal. He, like so many other comic book creators in the early 40s, is a young Jewish man who is able to write these stories about these heroes and basically create, like Jerry Siegel and Joel Shuster, like Jack Kirby and Stan Lee, create basically Jewish wish fulfillment. Like he always used to say, the spirit is a Jew. That's why he wears a mask, so no one could tell he's Jewish. Like that was the joke. And in his mind, this is just, again, another area of wish fulfillment for him, in the same way that it was for Siegel and Schuster. I think it was Jerry Siegel who saw his father shot and ended up creating a man who could repel bullets. Like it's that kind of wish fulfillment that you see. Like Jack Kirby basically creates a big rock monster and basically makes it himself. Like he's the guy out there just slugging Nazis in the face. Like this is why we love Jack Kirby. And Eisner is one of those guys. He's just this great Jewish comic book writer, like so many of these young men at the time, and writes these funny book characters. And the Spirit has kind of been one of those that's been lost to time. Especially after this movie, everyone kind of wanted to forget the character, but it's a really good character that ends up inspiring a lot of, just your street level comic book superheroes in a very real way. Like Frank Miller, the director of this, is a huge Will Eisner fan. Like there is, in cinema circles, there's the book Hitchcock Truffaut, which is a conversations between Francois Truffaut and Alfred Hitchcock. And then there's also This Is Orson Welles, conversations between Peter Bogdanovich and Orson Welles. I think Peter Bogdanovich did one with John Ford as well. So there are these great like conversation pieces between great filmmakers. And Frank Miller and Will Eisner actually sat down and wrote one called Eisner Miller, which is again just a very kind of, in terms of comics, it's kind of totemic conversation between these great illustrators. Like Miller himself is really influential in that street level hero thing he does. Like his run on Daredevil is unimpeachable. Like everything that is baked into the character of Daredevil now comes from that Frank Miller run.
He created Elektra, for crying in the mud.
Exactly.
I remember. I prefer his version visually of Elektra. I love the way Frank Miller draws Elektra because I like the way he draws hair.
Yeah.
And her hair is fantastic. It's like everybody's Norman Osborn in Frank Miller comics. Like they all got that kinky hair, and boy, it just looks fantastic.
It does. It looks really good. Like he's an incredible visual stylist. He's an incredible graphic artist. His political views leave a lot to be desired. He's after 9/11, he wrote this really awful comic. I'm trying to remember the name of it. I read it and I was kind of disgusted.
I think Frank Miller. There's a lot of people like this, and I would consider Kanye West to be very similar. There are a lot of geniuses that are various levels of mentally ill, and I think there's got to be a little bit of that there. And because I've seen interviews with Frank Miller, and he's smart as a whip, but he's fucking nuts, dude.
Yeah.
Frank Miller is nuts.
Holy
Love
Terror
him to death
was the name of the comic.
But he's nuts.
Yeah.
Oh boy.
Holy Terror. And then he also did All-Star Batman and Robin, which was really fucked up. It involves
the goddamn Batman.
Yeah, that's the one.
Oh boy, I bought one issue of that, and I was like, no.
Meanwhile,
absolutely
you've got
not. Why is this Batman so mean?
Right. Well, because that's
an asshole.
That's Frank Miller's Batman. Like the Batman that made sense to him is Batman as a madman. Like Batman has to be insane.
I get it in Batman or in The Dark Knight Returns because he's old and so much has happened to him. So that makes sense that he would just be completely out of his mind at that point.
Right. But I think
when he's doing that Batman and Robin shit where it's younger Batman, no, dude, that's not Batman. Fuck that.
Right. It doesn't work. Like it worked for that one. And I would argue that The Dark Knight Returns is maybe one of the most, if not the quintessential Batman story. Like it's the one. Like if you're going to read a Batman book, that's the one to read. It's such an incredible story. Very well.
The animated version is really good too.
I've not seen
it. And it is rated R, so don't worry.
Right.
And that's the one. Peter Weller is Batman.
You like that guy.
Cool. Boy, do I ever. Gosh, I like him so much.
Speaking of Peter Weller, Frank Miller also wrote some of the scripts for RoboCops 2 and 3, which did not feature Peter Weller, or I guess 2 did.
Well, 2 did.
Yeah, 3 did not.
His RoboCop 3 script got a comic book though.
Okay.
Many years later, they did a comic book version of his RoboCop 3 script. I'm not sure if he did art on it or anything, but
basically Frank Miller kind of rises to fame through The Dark Knight Returns and Daredevil. And then he writes Batman Year One, which is again another kind of quintessential Batman story. Like really Frank Miller writes 2 of the best Batman stories ever written, which is why he kind of deserves a lot of the acclaim that he gets. And then from there, he goes on to create Sin City. He writes the graphic novel 300, which is later turned into a Zack Snyder movie. And if you want to know what his visual style is like, watch this movie, watch Sin City, watch 300. They
I would say
basically
watch 300 too. Yeah, like Zack Snyder captures it. Like I don't like that movie because I don't give a fuck about anything happening in it. But
Right.
like it is like both Frank Miller and Zack Snyder really capture the feel
Mhm.
of a Frank Miller comic book. I'm not sure that the Spirit does. I think maybe the Spirit does too much.
That's
I
my
think he's
problem with
trying
it.
to make it too much of a comic book. Like you're in a different format, Frank. Like you have to adapt. You don't just
But here's
push
the
the
thing.
comic book onto the screen.
He's
You
not
can't do that.
just adapt. It's not just that he's trying to make it look like a comic book. He's trying to make it look like a Frank Miller comic book, which the Spirit is not a Frank Miller character. Like
I would have no idea. Please tell me all about everything you know about the Spirit,
the
Steven.
Spirit fucking rules. Like again, Will Eisner is just a fucking master of the form. I just want to make that abundantly clear. He is created in the early 40s, and basically it ran in the newspaper. It was a newspaper strip, and then it was eventually eventually became a comic.
Oh, it was a comic strip. I thought it might have been a radio play, a radio show at some point,
It
because it kind of has the bones of a radio drama. Because I listen to a lot of that shit more than I probably should.
He's
I
got
really like The
like
Shadow and The Whistler and
it's
Suspense and
got that
Project
feel
X.
for sure. The Spirit is Denny Colt. He's a PI, criminologist based in Central City, and basically trying to capture a villain gets placed in suspended animation. Is basically what's the word? Declared dead.
Dead. Yeah.
Declared dead, and they bury him, and he basically comes out of suspended animation, and so everyone's like, "Oh, well, he came back to life." So it's similar to what we see here without the the formula from the octopus and all of that. Like that's, I think if it wasn't something that was added from the comics later, it was created for the film. But he basically he's kind of a friendly outlaw is kind of the way that he was described in the comics, and he would basically work as a vigilante. And he was stationed at his headquarters was in Wildwood Cemetery, and he again, you can tell Will Eisner was probably kind of a horny young guy because the femme fatales are all over the place in the Spirit comics. Like that is very true to the comics.
Very overdone in this film. Almost
Mm,
comical how he interacts with
almost
every woman.
almost comical.
Almost comical. If handled slightly differently, it would have been funny.
Yeah.
But no, this is the look. I don't like this movie, but this is the perfect comic book movie because it is a comic book
Mm-hmm.
on your TV.
Yeah.
And
Except
shit, I would go
it's
as far as to say
nothing
I
like the
would
Spirit,
read this
though.
comic book. I would read this comic book if Frank Miller made this into a comic book and drew it himself. I would read it and I would probably love it. I would probably love it, but you like I said, you have to adapt, Frank.
Mm-hmm.
You have to adapt. You don't just put the comic on the screen. Certain things work in cinema, certain things don't, and I'm all for breaking those rules. But if you don't know what the fuck you're doing, you have no business trying to break those rules.
And there have been a few examples of like putting a comic on the screen that have worked really well. Like I think Ang Lee's Hulk is really kind of a fun way
Absolutely.
at trying to combine those media. Um, and I think honestly, I think the original Sin City does a really
Mm-hmm.
good job of that as well. And even
I really
300.
like that movie. That's a fantastic movie. And like I say, 300 is a good movie. I do like, I am not a Snyder bro, but I do love Zack Snyder.
Right.
I like his filmmaking style. I think it works more often than it doesn't for me, at least. There
Sure.
are some, I have no interest in this Red 9, whatever the shit he's doing on Netflix. I have no interest in that.
Right.
But Like, I do think he's a talented filmmaker. He has his lane and he tends to stay in it, which I think is good for him. Uh, but 300 is fantastic. I don't like it because my brain doesn't like the color palette.
Mm-hmm.
I wish I did, because there's some fantastic stuff in there. And like I said before, I think he really captures Frank Miller's style and really adapts it to film.
Right.
Adapts.
Well, but again,
Straight up adapts it,
here's the
Steven.
thing. He is adapting. He's adapting the the lush, vibrant panels of Will Eisner, and he's adapting them as a Frank Miller comic, basically.
Yeah, but not as a Frank Miller movie.
But and again, that's the thing. This is, to date, and I think rightly so, the only solo Frank Miller film. Everything else he's directed, are basically the Sin City movies alongside Robert Rodriguez.
Well, and the only reason he didn't get a credit for the first one is because he wasn't part of the Directors Guild.
Correct.
That's the only reason, because he participated as much in the first one as he did in the second.
Correct. But
so
he's also got
a co-director.
He's also got a competent director alongside him, kind of showing him the ropes. And here he's kind of left on his own.
Do you think that if Robert Rodriguez would have directed this with him, that it would have been better?
I have no doubt. Because it also reads like a Frank Miller comic. And my Frank Miller he's a lot of things, but subtle is not one of them. Mm-mm. The man does not know how to nuance anything. And it's really frustrating. Like, it works okay in comic books because, particularly like something like Sin City, where everything is very blunt and direct and to the point. But something like this, and again, this is a comic that came out of the 40s and 50s, so it's got a lot of that kind of flowery. My brain is just not tonight. It's got kind of a lot of that flowery noir-esque prose, like you would see in like a dime novel or a penny, not a penny dreadful, a fucking pulp magazine. That's what I'm looking for.
Yeah.
It have a lot of that kind of dialogue to it. And here everything is, you can tell they're trying for that, but it's very blunt. It's very direct. There's a lot of entendre, but it's barely double. It's like single and a half entendre. The way Frank Miller does it, because again, he's just so blunt and so direct, and he's writing this and directing this all on his own. And so we're just kind of like, it hurts, honestly.
Yeah. It sucks because there's so many setups and there's so many shots in this movie that I want to work.
Mm-hmm.
I thought the idea behind the shot early in the film where he's running and he almost looks like he's floating,
mm-hmm.
I was like, oh man, that would look fantastic as a comic book panel.
Yeah.
It looks like shit right now, right. But if we paused it and just sat on it for a second, it'd probably be really awesome.
And
I think comics, the thing that's great about comics is that you have a visual like you would a movie,
mm-hmm.
but you still have to imagine things like you would a regular ass book.
Right.
Like, the story exists between the panels.
Exactly.
And you can fill that in with what works as best as it does for you with the guide of what's happening on the panels.
Right.
But in a movie like this, where he's literally animating a comic book, essentially, with real people and CGI, it's not as fluid. It feels very stagnant, and it just sits there.
Right. There are things, there are elements of Miller's style that I think work really well here. Like the scene where Denny Colt dies for the first time, where he gets shot. And you get that shot where he's being like shot in the chest and he kind of spins around and the blood kind of starts flying everywhere. Like, that is a perfect Frank Miller panel come to life. The elements where everything is done in shadow, like those are that is Frank Miller's style, perfectly executed. But then it's everything's completely in black and white, which I'm usually a fan of black and white photography in film, except here it just feels like it's being done that way because that's how Frank Miller would draw the comic. Like the original Spirit comics are really colorful. Like the Spirit is wearing a blue suit. You wouldn't know it to watch this movie,
Yeah.
but the Spirit is decked out in a blue suit. The hat, the suit, the gloves, the shoes, even the mask are all blue in the
Yo,
comics.
Steven, did we watch different versions of this movie? Because my movie had color in it.
I mean, there are
Like,
like,
most of it is pretty muted,
oh,
but like it
see,
is a color film for sure.
I would say barely. I mean, the version I watched was
Maybe we
functionally
watched.
black and white.
Are there different versions?
I don't
Even the
think
Nazi
so.
stuff at the end was black and white for you? That shit wasn't red and everything?
Now, see, and I maybe I just watched this movie too. That's how little it
Because I
sits in my
here's the thing.
brain.
I noticed it. I watched it today too, and I remember when he's first suiting up and he's got his tie, it's Sin City red, like in the
Yes,
Sin City movies where it sticks out. But the more he gets into the world, the more color kind of
I
seeps in.
guess
And like I
you're
said, they're all
right.
very muted. And I noticed it. I was like, this was like Sin City for a minute, but now it's only kind of like that.
No, I'm looking at the stills, and I guess you're right. This is just an
That's
instance of
wild.
me misremembering a lot of this. But yeah, no, it. But again, everything is so muted, and he's not in
Mm,
a blue suit here. Like he's in a completely black
no.
suit, with the exception of
Yeah,
the tie. Um,
dude.
but I mean,
I
and
hate this movie
I
so
it's
much.
so bad. It's so
I'm
bad.
sorry. No, it just made me think of how, like, from the credits, like the opening credits, I was like, oh, this fucking sucks. And then, like, it kept sucking. And then, the moment, Steven, the moment I knew that this is one of the worst movies I ever saw is when, after jumping into the water to get the case or whatever the fuck he was going for, Sam Jackson rises up with that big fucking hat
Mm-hmm.
still on.
Yep.
And I was like, no, movie.
Mm-mm.
No. Nope. No. Oh, man. I didn't mean to derail you,
No,
but you made me think of that
you're
scene.
fine.
Oh,
So
man. I hate this movie so
December
much.
25th, 2008, I had a really good friend of mine, an ex of mine. We had dated previously, and we had started hanging out again. And she was asking for comic book recommendations, and I was like, well, The Spirit is coming out. We should go see it when it comes out on Christmas Day. And here, and I bought her that trade paperback of The Spirit. I bought one for me. I bought one for her. And so we were like reading it together, and she was excited too because it was just this cool comic book. And so we went to see it, and I think she like brought her roommate with her too. So I remember there were a few of us there that went to see it, and I was the one spearheading the whole thing. I'm like, yeah, let's go see it. We should go see it.
Oh, no.
It looks so good, and we're all just kind of sitting there, just like dumbfounded. And I
Oh, man.
swear, if it wouldn't have absolutely mortified and embarrassed me to do so, and I weren't there with other people, I would have just said, we can go. Like, let's just go.
Yeah.
Like, let's
Yeah.
go. And like I've seen a Tyler Perry movie in theaters, Tucker, and this is the closest I've come to walking out of a movie in a
Well,
theater. Like I was just like, and it was all, once it finished, we were all just kind of like, well. And I think I looked over at them and I just apologized. I was like, I'm so sorry, you guys. I'm so sorry.
I really thought it was going to be good. There's no
I
reason why this shouldn't be good.
on
Sin City
paper,
2 hasn't even come out yet. This should be good.
on paper, there's nothing in this movie that should have been bad. Sin City was great. Frank Miller is a comic book creator that I enjoy. Holy Terror, I think,
Yeah.
didn't come out until like 2010, 2011. So even that's
He's
not out
written
yet.
some of the best stuff.
Exactly.
For sure.
Like his run on Daredevil is unimpeachable. He's written two of the best Batman stories ever conceived. Like, there's no reason this should be bad. It's based on an iconic comic book character. And the cast is, with the exception of the lead, undeniably stacked.
Do you not like that guy? Because I didn't even know that guy existed. And then, like, while I was watching the movie, I was on my phone,
Of course you were.
which I never do.
Right. You're not that guy. I am that guy.
I'm
You're
not
not
that
that guy.
guy. I had to because like I was just embarrassed for this movie the whole time.
Yeah.
I was still watching it. I did that. I made sure to stay in it while I was still kind of scrolling. I
Mhm.
made a conscious effort to do that, and I did. So like I caught all of it, but I was scrolling a bit.
I mean, look, I had to take
Um,
multiple breaks. I'm in the process of moving, so I was like pausing, packing boxes. I'd pack boxes while I was watching the movie. At one point, I went out to go make myself a drink and come back. Like,
here's what I did. I read headlines, and then I tried to read the articles while the commercials were on.
gotcha.
That's how I was still in it. I would not like focus on an article, but I would skim headlines and open multiple tabs of things I want to read while the commercials are on.
Right. I mean, this guy, Gabriel Macht, is probably best known at this point for Suits.
Yes, the reason I brought it up is because I was scrolling through articles while I was watching this movie, and his name popped up, something about Suits. And it's like that car brand. Like when you buy a car of a certain brand, if you buy a Jeep, you start noticing a lot of Jeeps.
Right.
You know, it was just instant gratification. I'm like, who the fuck is this guy? And then 2 seconds later, oh wait, there's an article about him on my news feed. That's wild.
Yeah. But like this is, I think, if I'm reading his IMDb page correctly, this is like his first lead in a movie. Like
I don't know if I've ever seen him in anything.
I mean, and that's just it. Like he's in you remember that movie with Chris Rock and Anthony Hopkins called Bad Company?
I remember it because I worked at the video store when it came out, but I did not take that one home for research.
He's in that one. He's in a movie I saw in theaters in 2001 when my dad came to visit me during my freshman year of college with Gene Hackman and Owen Wilson called Behind Enemy Lines.
Wow.
Would I remember him in it?
That's
No,
cool.
I would not.
Wait, was that the one with Jude Law?
No, that's the one with Gene Hackman and Owen Wilson.
Enemy at the Gates, I'm thinking of is
Yes.
Jude Law. I
And
was going to
Rachel
say Owen
Weisz.
Wilson, but I was like, wait, is it the... Yeah, I liked that one. I don't remember anything about it, but I saw that at the movie theater with my dad, and we liked it.
Here's what I remember about that movie. So I was watching that one in college, and I watched it with my friends, and we were watching it on my buddy's computer. Like he just turned his monitor around, and he had AOL Instant Messenger up, and he had a sound effect when people would like log into Instant Messenger. It was just like a cow mooing, and we didn't turn it off when we were watching a movie because that would have just made sense.
Yeah, it's like when you get the aux cord, you turn off your notifications. Like, come on, man.
We know that now. In
Common
2001,
etiquette.
we did not know that.
Common etiquette.
So we're watching that movie, and the sex scene starts, and everyone decides to log into AOL Instant Messenger during the sex scene. So they're having sex, and it's just cows going nuts. That's what I remember.
Actually.
Right? It's amazing. We were laughing so hard.
I love that.
Right? He was in The Good Shepherd, the Matt Damon, Robert De Niro movie. Directed.
Yeah, I didn't see that one either.
I saw that one in theaters, but I would be hard pressed to tell you anything about it.
I have seen a movie he was in though. I've seen Whiteout.
Okay, yeah,
from 2009.
Another comic book adaptation.
That's got Kate Beckinsale in it, and it's
do
not
love
the
Kate
one where
Beckinsale.
she can't. She has face blindness. It's not that one,
Right?
But the posters are very similar.
Right.
But this one, yeah, I remember this one. This was the movie that really drove home like how fast cold temperatures can like fuck somebody up.
Mhm.
Because that was kind of like the whole point of the movie is it was so cold where they were that if they went outside for more than like 30 seconds, they were going to have a really fucking bad time.
Yeah.
And that was kind of the whole deal. That was like the gimmick in this movie. And there's like a serial killer, and yeah, it's wild. It's really good. I don't remember much about it, but I remember really enjoying. I remember a Kate Beckinsale like holding on to a rope to get to like a different door because like the snow is so bad they had to have like lead ropes,
right,
so that you could get to where you needed to go if you needed to go outside,
like in The Thing.
Yes, like that. Actually, this is a really good movie. I might see it again.
I saw Love and Other Drugs, which is apparently something he's in also.
Yeah, I don't know that one.
But pretty much his like career since I would say 2011 has basically been devoted to Suits. Like I feel like in like most of what he's played since then has just been that character. It's kind of one of those.
It's a big deal, though.
Yeah.
People like that show. It's a big show, right?
It apparently, yeah. But he's played that character in like other shows. There's a spin-off of that show coming out
Crossovers. Wow.
called was it Suits LA? Is like
his Suits character gonna show up on Abbott Elementary?
I mean, that's the way you know you've made it if your character shows up on Abbott Elementary.
Yo, I'm really excited about the Always Sunny version of their crossover episode being the premiere episode of the next season.
That's fun. Yeah, I haven't seen
Very excited.
I've not watched Abbott Elementary, so I wonder if I could watch that episode in isolation and still be okay.
I mean, like, here's the deal. I would, before you go to that extreme, I would start it and watch 3 episodes and see how you feel.
Okay.
Because it's worth the watch through, and it does make that episode that much better.
I've heard it's good.
I think now when I had it been on my list for a while, Abbott Elementary, but I just hadn't pulled the trigger on it. But then, like, when they announced that crossover, I was like, oh shit, I should probably get into gear on this. I think it took me about 2 months. It was my lunchtime show for about 2 months.
Okay.
And I finally caught up, and it was no shit the week before the crossover episode. I was like, yeah, I did it in perfect time.
Nice.
Yeah, it's good though. It's definitely worth it. That was the thing I was asking you when I was telling you that I started Schitt's Creek. But then I got derailed because something I liked better I started watching, and that was Abbott Elementary. I have been. Schitt's Creek is my current lunchtime show, and I'm about 4 episodes into season 3.
Are you still enjoying it, or?
Yeah,
okay,
absolutely. See, I liked it before. It's just Abbott Elementary was just like, it's. I don't know if it's better, but I like it better, and that's not to diminish Schitt's Creek because I like it enough to watch it every day when I eat lunch.
Right,
obviously.
Right.
So, and I love David Levy. I think he's fantastic. Not David.
Dan.
His character's name is Devin.
Yeah.
Dan Levy. Yeah.
Yeah, he's great. And David is David. Such a great character.
And I watched Schitt's Creek after I saw Kevin Can Go Fuck Himself.
Okay.
So that was a weird, like, that gal who plays
Annie Murphy
in both of those shows. Yeah. She's so different. Like, to a point, I mean, to a point to where it's impressive.
Have you seen her Black Mirror episode?
I don't think so.
You should watch her Black Mirror episode. It's so good.
I kind of think she could do anything, and I'm excited for her to kind of grow.
Good. She's really
I want to
good.
see her in some. I want to see her in some independent films, Steven. That's what I want.
Okay,
that's what I want.
Well, has she done any independent films?
I don't know. Maybe.
Straight up, maybe. Let me find out. I'm gonna find out.
She doesn't have much of a resume. Actually, before if she hadn't gotten Schitt's Creek, she was gonna quit acting. Was the whole deal. But she's done so much since then. Like, that really pushed her into the business proper.
She's a voice in Ruby Gillman, Teenage Kraken, which I did not know, but kind of makes me want to watch that show. She's in a few episodes of Russian Doll.
I love that show. Yeah, she was one of the younger versions of the hippie gals from the retirement home. Did you watch that show?
I watched the first season. I didn't get to the second season.
Second season hasn't come out yet, dude. We're still waiting, homie.
No, second season's out.
If it's out, then we're ending right now so that I can go watch it. Because what the fuck? No. Second season isn't out, you silly person. There's no way.
What the hell are you? Yeah, the second season is.
We're talking about Poker Face?
No, not Poker Face. Russian Doll.
Oh, it's because
they're both Natasha Lyonne shows.
Yes,
but they're very different premises.
I never saw Russian Dolls. I heard that it was a time loop show.
It is, and it's very fun.
I forgot about it until you just mentioned it. Actually, it was on my list for a while, but it kind of dropped off. Maybe I should look at it.
But no, Poker Face is great. But Russian Doll season 1 also very great.
Fantastic.
I mean, we're not going to
Well,
get Poker Face season 2 until probably sometime after
it's coming.
the next season
happening.
or the next Knives Out film comes out. Wake Up Dead
That's
Man.
coming too. They're both. I mean, they're both kind of. It's there. I see those titles mentioned places, so
Mhm.
they're kind of happening sort of at the same time, and I just can't wait because I love Ryan Johnson.
Yeah,
Big fan
we know you do.
from the beginning.
Yes, you were with him when.
I do need to see the Brothers Bloom again. It's been so long since I've seen that I don't even remember what it's about really.
It's about a pair of con men brothers
I have the Blu-ray.
played by Adrian Brody and Mark Ruffalo.
It's on my Vudu. I have no excuse.
Rachel Weisz in there as well.
One of those times that I was watching Brick, I probably should have watched. And I haven't watched Looper in a while. I think I burned myself out on that because it was so good. Like I watched it so many times when it first came out. It's so mind blowing.
You gotta ease yourself into that one for sure.
Oh yeah, I feel like I'm ready to come back to it though. I'm gonna watch that and listen to Hollywood Divorced by Outkast.
There you go.
Because that's the song that made me realize that I do that with stuff. I'll get too excited about it and watch it too many times and end up hating it. That's what happened with me and Johnny Cash. I don't like listening to Johnny Cash because I just really burned myself out on him when I was a kid.
Which is a big old bummer, honestly.
It's a big old bummer, but it didn't happen until after he died, so it's not like I missed anything.
Fair. And I mean,
Like,
there was a time when he was ubiquitous enough that you kind of couldn't avoid him. So I mean, it makes sense.
I think the only time that I listen to Johnny Cash anymore is Tennessee Stud on the Jackie Brown soundtrack.
Okay. I really love his covers of Hurt, obviously, and Personal Jesus.
Yo, Bridge Over Troubled Water, though, with Fiona Apple? Come on, dude.
Okay. I mean, sure.
Come on, dude.
I'm just saying, like, those are the ones I tend to gravitate. Hurt and Personal Jesus.
His cover of Rusty Chain, dude.
Again,
Soundgarden,
he's great. Look, Johnny Cash is great. For the one who's burned
Solitary
out on
Man,
him,
Neil Diamond, dude.
For the one who's burned out on him,
dude.
You're quite expressive on pushing.
Tom
right
Petty's
now.
"I Won't Back Down," dude, and Tom Petty's on the song with him. He's there, dude. Man.
Not since Dobie
Fiona
Gray and
Apple,
Uncle Cracker
dude.
has an original artist returned for a cover.
Not since fucking Victoria Williams and Pearl Jam in that one song. What's that called? Down road, tall paper shack. What's that called? Take a bottle, pass it down, pass it around. It's called fucking. Look, if I look up you don't know that song?
I don't.
Victoria Williams. Yes. Her big song was. Come on. You know what? I'm sorry. I don't mean to hijack this, but there's no way you don't know what I'm talking about.
Not based on what
Crazy
you've just
Mary.
done.
Crazy Mary.
Okay.
Wild-eyed Crazy Mary. But it was a Victoria Williams song before then, and Pearl Jam redid it for Vitalogy, but there was a B-side. They never put it on it, but they released it. And she sings background vocals on it. And it's really rad because I dig both versions of that song. Sorry, hijack over. The Spirit.
The Spirit. Look, one thing we can all be grateful for, as bad as this movie is, it at least does not include a character that Will Eisner, ill-advised, wrote into the original comic called Ebony White.
Oh, what now?
Yes, a character named Ebony White who was the Spirit's black sidekick. And he was drawn as stereotypically as you might imagine.
Oh, no.
Yes.
Will Eisner, no.
Will, no. Yes.
No,
Tragically, yes. But again, that was written out a while ago, and mercifully, was not put into this movie. For all the things Frank Miller did wrong, he did that right. But yes, we've got and again, all the femme fatales. This is maybe the horniest, least sexy movie ever.
Yes.
This movie is so horny and not at all sexy.
That is, yeah.
Which
both
for
of those things are very true.
A movie with Eva Mendes, Stana Katic, Paz Vega, and Scarlett Johansson. To not be sexy is wild. But again, I think this is a Frank Miller thing. It's just so aggressively horny. This is another movie that had been in development hell for decades. Like,
I believe it. Was Frank Miller always attached?
No. Like, William Friedkin got the rights in the 70s and was going to make it. He actually asked Eisner to write the comic, and Eisner's like, I don't want to, but you should talk to the other most cantankerous man in the 70s, Harlan Ellison.
Oh, I was like, Alan Moore? What?
No, he wasn't cantankerous until the 80s, once DC and Marvel both screwed him over.
Oh boy. Yeah, well, I mean, yeah.
That'll do it. But no, Harlan Ellison, the biggest crank in sci-fi. Will Eisner's like, you should let my buddy Harlan write it. And so he did. He wrote a 2-hour live action script for Friedkin. And of course, Friedkin also being just an incredibly abrasive individual. The two of them had some argument or other, and the whole project fell apart.
Wait, Steven, you love that guy.
I do. William Friedkin is one of my guys.
That's your guy.
He is. And listen to the episode I did recently with Pod and the Pendulum on The Exorcist.
The Hunted. Oh, okay.
No. Although,
can we do that one though, Steven? I'll put it on straight up if I have to.
You might, actually.
Just for you, dude. Just for you.
If I had my own version of Straight Up, we'd be watching Sorcerer, dude. Like, Sorcerer is one of the best movies of the 70s, man. I fucking love that movie.
Look, in a couple years, when I start running out of movies, every once in a while, you can hijack Straight Up and do a Friedkin movie. I'm way into that idea.
Like, if you have not seen Sorcerer, fucking go watch Sorcerer, Tucker. Seriously, that movie is.
I haven't.
It's a fucking.
I don't know what that is.
Are you familiar with
the sword
the film
and sorcery business?
No. Are you familiar with the movie Wages of Fear?
No, dude, but I like that title. I want to be in a black metal group, and that is going to be one of our record titles, dude.
So Wages of Fear is this French film about these men driving trucks full of nitroglycerin through the jungle. And William Friedkin watches that movie and goes, or actually he reads the novel it's based on and goes, fuck, I want to adapt this. And so after the double box office bonanzas that are The French Connection and The Exorcist, he's like,
oh, I like those movies.
I'm gonna do another adaptation of Wages of Fear, except I'm gonna put actual people at risk in the jungle. We're actually gonna be driving semis across rope bridges, and I'm gonna make Roy Scheider's life a living hell. And he does, and it's called Sorcerer, and it's his fucking masterpiece. It's the best movie he's done. The only downside is it comes out the same year as this little movie called Star Wars, and no one's interested.
Wait, Wages of what? Wages of Fear?
Wages of Fear. It's a French film. I would show you my Criterion DVD copy. I'd run and get it, but I just packed it earlier today. I'm
gonna watch the movie, and then I wanna do a speed metal song called Wages of Fear.
There you go.
And the breakdown is going to be like, Wages of Fear. Yeah, it's going to be rad, dude.
Okay.
It's going to be really cool.
I'm glad to have inspired that for you.
I'm writing all this down.
But yeah, so Friedkin was going to do a version in the 70s. There was another version they were kicking around in the 90s. Hang on, let me check and see who would have been involved in that one. Because there was, again, this movie, just development hell for years.
All the way back from the 80s, really?
Yeah,
I missed that when you first said.
No, wild. Friedkin wanted to do it in the 70s. Brad Bird apparently wanted to do an animated version in the 80s.
Pixar's Brad Bird?
Yes.
Tomorrowland's Brad Bird?
Tomorrowland's Brad Bird, yeah.
Totally underrated movie. Can't wait to do an episode on that.
The Iron Giant's Brad Bird.
Oh, Vin Diesel.
In the 90s, they wanted to try to do a live action version. But basically no one really got it. No one really got the character. They kept trying to make him like supernatural. And then in the early aughts, they were kicking it around, but like Eisner really didn't want it to happen at that point. So after Eisner died, Michael Uslan, the producer that had the film rights, basically came up to Frank Miller and was like, would you do that? And Miller's like, I don't know. But then ultimately just decided, yeah. He's quoted it as saying, the only thought in my mind was it's too big. I can't possibly do it. And I refused. And about 3 minutes later, as I was at the doorway, I turned around and said, nobody else can touch this. And I agreed to do the job on the spot. So basically doing it as a way to honor his late friend, which again, after watching this movie, feels weird because I don't get the spirit of Eisner's spirit in this movie.
Yeah, I've never experienced the original Spirit, but I sure as hell don't like this one.
Yeah, you should check if you can get your hands on them. I would recommend checking out the comics because they are really fun.
I usually get trades from the library. That's how I read comics, because whenever I invest in comics, they get destroyed or stolen.
Understood.
So I just read the trades from the library. And if it's good enough, I have a small, tiny shelf on my bookshelf of graphic novels. Don't have a lot. I have Pride of Baghdad. That's kind of
interesting.
It makes me feel very intellectual,
right?
To own that comic.
Sure, makes sense.
Oh, that giraffe though. Oh, that's so sad.
You do
that's
love
a
that
sad book, dude.
You've brought that one up before. I mean, and we do love Brian K. Vaughan. We stand Brian K. Vaughan.
I have Ultimate Iron Man. I have that entire run.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I really enjoyed that. And I understand why nobody else does.
Right. Yeah.
It's the Tucker movie of comic books.
I buy it.
Yeah. Like I get it.
Yeah.
But I really, really like it.
As long as you understand.
Got a couple sagas. Never finished that, unfortunately.
Oh,
I feel
Saga,
like enough time has to pass.
I want to get back into Saga. I should get back into Saga.
About halfway through it, I stopped buying comics and all my comics got destroyed. So I gave up on all of my comics. And so I just haven't gone back to it. But I think enough time has passed to where I could reread it. Like, when you fall asleep during a movie and you're like, well, I don't want to start it over, but I don't really remember what happened.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like that with Saga. Like, I don't want to start it over because it was too fresh. But now I feel like enough time has passed. I could probably get an omnibus or something from the library. I got about halfway through that run.
I feel that way about Fables. That was a book that I started and really liked. And then I had all the trades up to like a certain point, and then I gave them to that same ex that I saw the Spirit with. And then I never saw them again.
I have a surprisingly complete trade paperback collection of Spider-Girl. Like the M2 universe Spider-Girl.
Oh, God.
Yeah.
M2. Yeah. That's no one remembers M2.
I remember M2, motherfucker.
Of course
because Spider-Girl, dude, she started out, she was a What If.
Yeah.
She was the last issue of that run of What If. And it got spun off. It was Romita Jr., who did all the art for those, the original ones.
I'm not a big Romita Jr. fan.
He got so much better. It's so wild to like look at his early style and see how his more recent stuff it uses the same bones. Like he's still like very horizontal line oriented, obviously.
Right.
But it looks so much better. He knows how to use it now. And about halfway through his work on Spider-Girl is, I feel like, when he learned how to use that. That's why it's such a fun run to read. Like she existed, she had her own series. I think it was just called Spider-Girl. And then there was a revival series a couple years later called Spectacular Spider-Girl. And then she showed up in Spider-Man Family and Spider-Verse, of course, which I really wish they had shown more of her in that initial Spider-Verse comic book storyline. But she was there. I just really like that character because she felt like the Spider-Man reboot that they've been trying to do every 5 or 10 years. You know, like every time there's a new show, it's like, oh, he's in high school. See
Yeah.
how he's in high
He's
school
always in high
and
school
how.
again.
But I think Mayday Parker works as a fresh take on Spider-Man in high school. But it's modern. Well, it's late 90s modern.
Yeah.
But
I don't know if that really counts as
it's
modern anymore.
yeah, Spider-Girl's my shit. Like I've contemplated getting a Spider-Girl tattoo many, many times. I've never pulled the trigger.
Okay.
Fucking Spider-Girl, dude.
Let me know when you get there.
My girl. Mayday Parker.
There you go.
Yeah,
anyway, the Spirit.
But Spider-Girl.
I don't know. This movie sucks.
Sorry.
I really wanted this movie to be good. Here's for me, I'm just gonna say this: the most egregious part of this movie is Louis Lombardi as all of the henchmen. It's just, honestly, it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, he's really bad.
He is. And
in a film full of shitty performances,
mm-hmm.
his is the worst. I think the only actor that really deserves any credit in this movie is the dude that played the Spirit. Because he wasn't bad. He wasn't good, but he wasn't as bad as everybody else. Like, he rose above everybody else in that fucking movie.
And here's the thing.
But the henchman guy is the worst.
He's the worst part. And, like, every line out of his mouth is so jokey and goofy. And, I mean, this man was on The Sopranos. Like, he was in the movie Suicide Kings. Like, this is a guy who has done good work.
I like Suicide Kings.
Of course you do.
He was the guy with Ray Romano's brother in Suicide Kings.
Yes.
They were the guys that were trying to, but then they end up, and that's kind of sad because I liked them. I mean, they could have taken out Dennis Miller instead. Not Dennis Miller.
Dennis Leary.
Dennis Leary, thank you. Though I do like his deal with the busket. That is a classic.
Give me the busket.
Give me the busket.
Give me the busket.
Give me the fucking busket.
I mean, he's in Usual Suspects, the only movie by He Must Not Be Named that I really love.
He is not a bad actor.
No.
But he acts badly in this movie.
And here's the thing. I feel that way about Sam Jack in this movie, too. And Sam Jack's one of those guys you're like, when's he bad? And then you watch The Spirit and you're like, oh, here.
He's bad, but he's having a good time.
He's having a blast.
That was the thing about his performance is like, this movie sucks, but gosh, I'm glad Sam Jackson had fun. Because he clearly did.
This is a movie I remember after seeing this and having seen him be really not great in the Star Wars prequels. I just came up like I headcanoned it in my head. Like, Samuel L. Jackson is the kind of guy. He's an amazing actor, but he needs a strong director. Like, because I think when he's left to his own devices, which it feels like he kind of was here, he has some good ideas, but he needs someone to check him with the kind of stuff that he's doing to kind of be like, I don't know how I feel about this. Like, because I kind of feel the same way about his performance in Kingsman a little bit too. Like, it just feels too goofy. And again, he's having fun, but that just doesn't feel like the right performance for that movie. Like with the lisp and whatever the hell he's doing in that movie. Like, so I after this movie, I was just like, Sam Jack needs a good director. He needs like a Spike Lee or a Quentin Tarantino or someone who can kind of be like, can we try something different? And Frank Miller is too novice to really know how to do that.
Yeah. Yeah, dude.
And I mean, like, Eva Mendes she called him before even seeing a script, Frank Miller, and was like, hey, I want to work with you. I like Sin City. And I'm like, oh, Ava, sweetie, no. But I mean,
I liked her in Hitch.
I liked her in Hitch. I love her in Too Fast, Too Furious. She's great in that. Like she's
good in lots of stuff.
Yeah,
I like her. Generally a fan.
Yeah, I would love to see her work more. She's right now busy being married to Ryan Gosling.
That's probably a whole thing, right?
I'm sure. Like two incredibly hot people married to each other. Like, okay, I get it. But yeah, like she's yeah, I want to see her work more because, again, I think she is a really phenomenal, talented actor. We were talking about before this started about We Own the Night, a movie that I thought she was really good at, kind of a retelling of The Prodigal Son with Joaquin
Oh yeah.
Phoenix and Mark Wahlberg and Robert Duvall. That's just really phenomenal. She's in another superhero movie that we unfortunately cannot cover called Ghost Rider because they made a
Oh yeah.
second one of those.
There's some discussion about the how connected those two films are though. And honestly, I would just based on that, I wouldn't mind doing them both because look, spoilers, I kind of really like that second one. And
Yeah,
the first one's not bad
I was
either.
gonna say we can cover the second one on Unenfranchised.
I think we could honestly we could cover them both on Unfranchised.
She's apparently in the movie Holy Motors, which I have heard is really phenomenal, but I have not seen the Leos
I
Carax
don't know what
film.
that is. Yeah, I don't know that one.
But yeah, I've heard that one's really good, and apparently she's in that. So yet another reason to see that movie, I guess. And the Place Beyond the Pines, which I have not seen. That probably might be
Oh,
where she
speaking
met
of Ryan
Ryan
Gosling,
Gosling, right?
that's on my Voodoo. Check it out. It's good as hell, Steven.
Okay.
It's good as hell.
She's
Go
also
watch it.
she's done an episode of Bluey.
Nice.
And
Kids
I
love that shit.
like, yeah. And here's the thing: she stopped acting in 2014, and then
I did not know that.
the only thing she's done since then is an episode of Bluey and something called Bluey Book Reads. So apparently, the only thing she's done since 2014 is Bluey. But yeah, she
That's
more or
cool.
less stopped acting in 2014, which again, big old bummer. But a lot of times actresses will retire when they hit a certain age or when they start to have children.
Well, yeah, and like it's not like she needs to go make money.
Right.
She's married to Ryan Gosling, and I can imagine.
She had a
I can
significant career in
only.
her own right that she's probably still
I
getting paid
can,
residuals on.
but Steven, I can only imagine what it's like for a woman in Hollywood, and especially when you reach a certain age. And I don't blame her. I'd dip too. I'd be like, fuck that. Like I've done this long enough. I don't have to do it anymore. I could be in plays and shit. And like
Mhm.
Hollywood's a fucked up place, Steven.
It is.
Mm.
And I mean, it happened with another of my favorite actresses, Phoebe Cates, did the same thing.
Yeah.
Eventually just kind of pieced out, got married to Kevin Kline and was just like, you know what? Don't need this. Bye. And
I don't blame her.
pretty much the only things that she's returned to do since the 90s have been a film directed by her friends, The Anniversary Party by Jennifer Jason Leigh and Alan Cumming. And then she was in Lego Dimensions as her character from Gremlins.
Oh, she didn't do a guest voice on that shitty Hulu show.
Well, the HBO Max show that's
Yeah,
a prequel, like a Disney.
I
Prequel.
understand, but what's his nuts did a voice in it. Zach Galligan.
Is that Galligan? Well,
that-
yeah, but what else is he
Yeah.
doing?
I'm saying, but he didn't play Billy. He was some other character, but he was there, and that was the point. So I thought maybe I'm sure if Dick Miller were still alive, he would have done a voice for it.
Man, Dick Miller, I miss that guy.
Me too. Did I tell you I met Dick Miller?
No,
What a guy. What a guy. I met him and his wife. Yeah, they were fantastic. I don't think he really wanted to be there, but he was still really nice. Like, really nice. And, like, kind of like Ernie Hudson, where he was just very accommodating.
Okay,
Just a sweet old dude.
yeah. I have to imagine Dick Miller was just a cool guy.
Yeah, dude.
I'm looking at the Gremlins Secret of the Mogwai IMDb page, and Zach Galligan apparently played a character called Henchman Number 2.
Yeah.
And he was in 5 episodes as Henchman Number 2.
Does Corey Feldman do a voice?
I doubt it, man.
Oh.
Yeah, Feldman's
I'm
a
hoping,
mixed bag.
Look, I really want to see him have a big redemption arc because, like, I hate to see people on the internet making fun of him for shit. Just knowing, like, how shitty it was for him coming up in Hollywood and the
Right.
shit he had to go through and the reason he is. I've met him too,
Mm-hmm.
and he's a fucked up dude, like a really awkward fucked up dude.
Yeah.
And I want him to be okay because I feel bad for him.
I have
I just
no
want him to be
problem
okay,
believing that.
Steven.
I would
I just
also
want him to be
like for him to be okay. I feel like he's going to have to get a lot of therapy, though, to get to that point.
Yeah. Oh, man.
But yeah, I don't know. The Spirit, man, that movie sucks.
It really does.
And it's a shame because, again, I love the comics. I would strongly advise anyone to go read the comics because the comics are phenomenal. Which I think is part of. Oh, another person in this movie that I didn't mention before, Eric Balfour is in this movie. I feel like Eric Balfour is probably one of your guys. Are you an Eric Balfour fan?
Let me see who he is.
He plays the most recent husband of Sans Serif, but he's in
God.
like
Why is she named after a font? What is that all about?
That again, look. So in the early days of comics, all of your characters, with the exception of maybe your hero, had very gimmicky and or punny names. Like there was
I understand that, but it's
go
on, Steven. I'm sorry.
Also, all of these characters in the comics, at least, are pretty racially insensitive.
I can imagine.
There's a lot of that. I mean, you see glimpses of it in this movie, but you know, it's not as anywhere as overt as it was in the comics. But yeah, Eric Balfour is. I mean, he's been in all sorts of shit.
He's in a lot of stuff that I keep meaning to watch.
Oh, okay.
That I have not watched, which is crazy because there's so many things that have been on my list for years.
Sure.
That he's in, but I would have seen him in the Texas Chainsaw Massacre remake, which I don't remember very well.
Mm-hmm.
Can't Hardly Wait, which I don't remember him in that at all. Clueless, I don't remember him in that. I don't remember him in the Buffy television series. There was something more recently. What was it? Oh, I keep meaning to watch The Offer. I really want to watch The Offer. It's been on my list forever, but I keep forgetting about it.
I'll tell you, he's
like Ray Donovan,
he's very good in
an episode of Ray
6 Feet Under. I that was the first thing I saw him in. That I was like, I kind of like this guy.
I don't know, man. Yeah, The Offer I've wanted to watch for a while. What was it? Like I said, Ray Donovan. He was an episode of that. That's on my list. I guess I would have seen him in Inland Empire, but I don't.
Well, that's not the David Lynch film.
Oh, it's not.
Why
is it called that, though?
It's a TV movie that came out a few years later. He directed it, actually.
Oh, so it's kind of like Mulholland Drive, where there's a TV pilot and a feature-length film?
I guess. Like David Lynch didn't direct it. Eric Balfour directed it.
Oh, okay, I was going to say, because this description doesn't sound like... I'm sure David Lynch could direct anything, but...
Right.
This doesn't sound like a David Lynch movie.
No, this is Eric Andre's in it. Like,
yeah. He was in Abbott Elementary week before last.
Okay.
Which made me very happy.
There you go.
Because I like Eric Andre.
He was in the show Haven, based on a Stephen King novel. That was pretty fun. Yeah, I don't know why. He seems like one of those guys that would probably be like, if you saw more of his stuff, would probably be one of your guys.
Maybe he should be in cooler stuff that I've seen.
Or maybe you should just seek out his stuff, man.
Hey, man, I can only watch so much. Plus, I'm trying to not watch so much because we still have to do that What Are We Watching episode.
Yeah.
Gosh, that list has gotten low.
Mm-hmm.
That's going to be a marathon right there. That might be a 3 or 4 hour episode.
It might be. We might have to really dedicate some time for that one.
Dude, Steven, I texted you during, but I totally watched 6 Degrees of Separation, episode of Straight Up, 6 Degrees of Separation, and Steel Magnolias back to back.
Mm-hmm.
Because they're both plays where people just talk all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And they're the kind of movies you watch with the overhead light on. You know, I know that sounds kind of weird, but normally I have just like a lamp on, a couple lamps on in the room, just some ambient lighting.
Mm-hmm.
But when I watch movies like that, I just turn the overhead light on and watch it.
Like you do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow. Boy, I sure did cry during Steel Magnolias.
Yeah. I
Oh
cried. I
man.
cried because I knew I was going to have to watch The Spirit again.
No, man, when Julia Roberts died and her kid is like, and
Spoilers.
fuck, it's the whole movie's about it. Like the first time you see her, you're like, oh yeah, she's probably gonna die, so get ready for that.
I've
At some
seen the
point,
movie and
this
the
whole
play.
movie's about it. I saw the play too, man, and I saw it at a theater conference I went to my senior year of high school, and it was put on by high schoolers. And wow, they really knocked it out of the park. I was up in Muncie for some kind of theater conference.
Muncie?
Yeah, dude,
More
where Ball
like
State be?
Funsy, am I right?
I like Muncie.
Yeah.
It's a good campus. It's a really nice campus.
That's where
All
they
of
shot Close Encounters of the Third Kind.
You know when you push the button for the crosswalk?
Mm-hmm.
When you do it on campus, it chirps as it's counting down because
it's
they're
bird time.
cardinals,
Yeah.
and they chirp. Yeah,
Chirp, chirp, cool. It's bird time.
Yeah,
so
State.
The Spirit came out on December 25th, Christmas Day, in the year of our Lord 2008. What a time to be alive was Christmas. The weekend box office, it opened at number 9 that week.
Wow.
Not the big Christmas release. There were actually 4 other new releases that opened ahead of it. The first of which was Marley and Me. Speaking of Owen Wilson,
that's that dog movie with Owen Wilson,
with that dog and also Owen Wilson.
Christmas 2008. You say?
Yeah.
Christmas Day.
Mm-hmm.
Can I tell you this is very strange, but I thought about it briefly, and I remember exactly where I was and what I was doing. Christmas Day of 2008. Steven.
I was watching The Spirit in theaters at the
yes,
the theater that Brett actually probably worked at the time, the AMC, or I guess it's an AMC now. It wasn't then. It was the Carasotes 13 down in Greenwood.
Yes, dude. I was in Missoula, Montana, and
home of David Lynch.
Yes, he was born there. Yes. I lived there for about 6 months with my first spouse. My ex-wife. We had just gotten married in July, and we immediately moved to Montana because we felt like it.
Mm-hmm. Sounds like the kind of thing you guys would do.
In those days, yes. In those days. But yeah, it was Christmas, and we were just 2 people, and we didn't have like anything to do on Christmas but hang out. And so we went down the street to the Sinclair station because the Sinclair station had a casino and a bar in back of it. And so we gambled on those slot machines and sang karaoke at the bar on Christmas Day.
There you go.
2008. I
went with friends to see Frank Miller's Will Eisner's The Spirit.
And the only reason I make a big deal out of it and mention it is I couldn't tell you like I was at my sister's this Christmas and last Christmas and the Christmas before and the Christmas before that, you know. But that was a unique one. That was a unique one. Drinking and gambling,
like you do.
Christmas Day in the morning.
And number 2, Walt Disney's Bedtime Stories.
What the fuck is that?
It's a movie with Adam Sandler and Kerry Russell.
Oh.
Guy Pearce, Russell Brand, Richard Griffiths, Jonathan Pryce, Courtney Cox, Lucy Lawless.
Okay.
Aisha Tyler.
Cool. Like, that sounds cool.
A new adventure comedy in which Skeeter Bronson, a hotel handyman, has his life changed forever when the bedtime stories he tells his niece and nephew start to mysteriously come true. When he tries...
Is it animated?
It is not. It is a live action film.
There's no animation at all. There's no like Mary Poppins sort of like live action with animation.
Man, I didn't know. I've never seen the shit.
Me neither. That's why I'm asking you about it, because I haven't even heard of this. You know what though? I was living in Montana in 2008. Like, basically in the wilderness.
Here's the thing. It's
No internet.
probably animated in like the way that every movie now is half animated, and that like it's a bunch of CGI animation shit.
Dude, yeah.
I mean,
It's
it
wild.
looks like there's some really good costume work in this movie.
Should I see it? Should I put it on my list?
I cannot recommend it. As
Is it
I
a
have
Christmas
not seen
movie?
It came out Christmas Day, so in that respect, yes.
Well, I mean, is it about Christmas?
Probably not.
Well, Adam Sandler, he only does Hanukkah movies anyway. He did those 8 Crazy Nights.
He did that 8 Crazy Nights, yeah.
Now that was animated.
Correct. No denying that. In third place,
I've seen the poster.
Opening in third place, future Academy Award nominated film, The Curious Case of Benjamin Button. David Fincher's The Curious Case of Benjamin Button.
That's one of the few Fincher films I have not seen.
I own it. It's good. I own the Criterion
Benjamin
DVD, actually. Yeah, it's a good movie.
Nice.
In fourth place is the Tom Cruise Let's Kill Hitler movie, Valkyrie.
Another movie been on my list for a long time, still have not seen it.
Directed by He Who Must Not Be Named himself.
Yeah.
In fifth place, in its second weekend, Jim Carrey's Yes Man.
Well, I like that one.
What if Jim Carrey was a yes man?
But you know which one was better? Was I Love You, Philip Morris. I feel like that came out around the same time, and I liked that one better.
That movie came out the same year as I Love You Man with Jason Segel and Paul Rudd, and I Love You, Beth Cooper.
All 2 of those films I've seen and enjoyed.
Right. But yeah, three movies in which it came out the next year, 2009.
In fact, I can't believe that with the kind of chemistry that Paul Rudd and Jason Segel had in I Love You Man, that they didn't do like a series of, they weren't like the new comedic buddy duo. Because
I don't think
the movie's not great.
Did really well though. I think that's why.
But it's part of the culture though. There are parts of that movie that, whether you know it's from that movie or not, you quote all the time. All the time. You're not familiar? Have you seen I Love You Man?
I have. It's been a number of years. Schlap into bass. That's the only part of that movie I remember.
But look, that movie's not great. It's good. It's fine. But Paul Rudd and Jason Segel's chemistry in that movie, just based on how well they play off each other, I'm really surprised that they didn't do more co-starring movies. Super surprised, actually.
I mean, they were Jason Segel was the only other character besides Leslie Mann and Paul Rudd to be in This Is 40.
I didn't see that one.
You're not missing. It's the second worst Apatow movie.
I watched the one with Adam Sandler, and I kind of liked that one.
That one's, honestly, we watched through the Judd Apatow films last year. I think that might be his best one.
Funny People? Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Okay.
I saw that one in theaters and I wasn't very impressed, but like revisiting it, I'm like, this is a lot better than I remember it being. So
I think I like Apatow as a creative collaborator, because it's usually the movies like Walk Hard and The Cable Guy that he closely collaborated as a producer with the writer and director, that I think have sort of his you can see his style in it, but it's not overpowering, which a lot of his directorial efforts for me kind of are. They're just a little too much, you know?
I really like his first 3, 40-Year-Old Virgin, Knocked Up, and the other one, the one we just talked about, Funny People. Like, those are his first 3 movies. And after that, like, and I also liked, like, This Is 40, not great. Trainwreck is fun. I like Trainwreck a lot.
Nah.
I mean, I get it, but I quite enjoyed it. And then The King of Staten Island, I was kind of mixed on. It's just way too long. And then The Bubble, it can just fuck right off. That movie is the worst. That movie is
Fair.
toxic.
Straight up fair.
It's better than The Spirit, but not much. Rounding out the top 10, we've got 7 Pounds, The Tale of Despero, the Scott Derrickson, Day the Earth Stood Still. At number 9, The Spirit. And then finally, Doubt at number 5, future Academy Award nominated film, Doubt.
What if there was a doubt?
What if Meryl Streep had doubts?
What if something were doubted?
What if there were doubts? That movie is really good. Actually, I saw the play before I saw the movie, and I think both are phenomenal. Yeah,
nice.
It's a John Patrick Shanley play. So,
word.
The tomatometer score for The Spirit is a 14%. Critics' consensus, though its visuals are unique, The Spirit's plot is almost incomprehensible, the dialogue is ludicrously mannered, and the characters are unmemorable. Correct.
Absolutely correct. Notice I didn't try to remind you about the plot in 60 seconds on this.
Nope.
Because I don't fucking know what happened in this movie, man.
No one does.
The one thing, and then the mud, and then there was cats. And then there was -1 cat.
Basically, there's this thing that the MacGuffin of the movie is the blood of Heracles, which, because of the serum that both he and the Spirit are injected with, the octopus wants to get a hold of, because if he drinks it, he'll become more powerful than a god, which for hand wavy reasons, drinking it will affect his genetic makeup for some reason, rather than injecting it into his bloodstream or something you would expect.
That would make a little more sense. Yeah,
whatever. Fuck this
Speaking
movie.
of cats, though, bringing it back to Bodied, Steven, did you notice the black cat that was in every scene in Bodied?
No.
Really? I didn't notice it until my third watch through, and I was like, holy shit, there's a black cat roaming around in every scene in this movie. Sometimes it's very obviously CGI, but it's kind of fun because I still haven't figured out why it's there. Anyway, check out our last week's Straight Up episode on Body. Lord knows we need you to, because it's been our... no one has watched it on YouTube, and the numbers are very low across podcatchers. So if you haven't watched that episode or listened to it, please do.
Yeah.
Jimmy is there.
It's a good app, honestly. Straight up good app.
Good as hell, dude.
The Metascore for The Spirit is 30, based on generally unfavorable reviews from 24 critics. Tucker, would you care to take a stab at the Letterboxd score?
Now, this is a hard one, because this is the perfect movie for someone to do a 5-star meme review on. The perfect movie to do it. And show how clever they are by pretending to like things because of this made up reason that sounds smart. So I'm going to trend up, but not much. This is going to be my first dip into the ones. This is going to be in between a 1.8 and a 2.4.
It's a 2.1.
Yes. I'm on a streak, dude.
You're on a streak. You're not doing too bad lately.
Yeah.
So now I have to ask you, Tucker, out of 5 stars, how many are you giving to The Spirit?
0 stars.
0.
0 stars.
It's a half for me, just because of Bill Pope. Honestly.
Oh, okay. All right.
Bill Pope. Cinematography in this movie is pretty good. For all its flaws, there are parts of this movie that don't look too bad. Bill Pope.
The editing ruins it.
Unfortunately,
editing ruins it every fucking time.
But
every time I'm like, oh, that's a nice. Oh, why'd they do that?
But still,
every time
I'm gonna give props to my main man, Bill Pope.
Yeah,
so I'm gonna give the half star for this movie is for Bill Pope. But yeah, that's fuck this movie again. This is one I've been dreading returning to, but you know what? Here's the bright side. Here's the silver lining of that dark cloud, Tucker. I never have to fuck with this movie again.
You know what's better than this movie, Steven? Marmaduke. Do you think Food Fight is better than this movie, Steven?
No.
This is better than Food
This
Fight.
this is actually a
Like
movie.
if someone said, Stephen, you could only watch one of these two movies, either Food Fight or 2008's The Spirit, El Spirito,
Yeah.
or Das Spirit,
Yeah.
as they
Well,
say in other places.
I guess it's if I guess the answer to that question would depend on if anyone else is watching it with me and how much I hate that person.
Okay.
Because if I really hate that person, we're watching Food Fight. Because
But why would you watch a movie with someone you hate? Hostage situation?
I was gonna say if they're the ones forcing me to watch it,
Okay.
if they're trying to torture
threatening your
me,
life. Yeah.
but they're gonna be in the room watching it with me, then fuck, it's Food Fight. Because that Food Fight isn't even a movie. Like, it's a movie in the strictest sense, but
Yeah.
no, it like The Spirit is actually a movie. Like, it came out in theaters and it exists. Food Fight is not that.
We don't know what it is. I don't know what it is because I haven't seen it. I still need to see it though.
You
feel
do.
but I don't want to just watch it randomly because our schedules are all so weird. I want to be able to do some sort of content, whether it be on the Patreon or on the main feed, about my experience with the food fights. And does that mean you guys have to watch it again?
I'm not watching it
Also,
again,
so many
Tucker.
questions.
I'm not watching it again. I've done my time.
When is the soundtrack going to release on vinyl?
I no.
That's what I want to know.
It's not going
Can I
to.
get Food Fight on Laserdisc?
No.
Damn.
I don't even think you can get it on DVD anymore.
But it was printed at one point.
It was. I remember seeing it in like Redbox. Is that what that thing was
Yo,
called?
when's Kino Lorber gonna drop that 4K?
Oh,
Food Fight.
If God is merciful, never.
Do you think anyone would buy it? Like, just as a joke? Obviously, that should be one of those artsy fartsy boutique labels for their April Fool's social media joke. Should announce a Food Fight 4K, but like be completely serious about it.
So, Tucker, I am loath to tell you this.
There's a 4K.
No, there is a it's not gotten past DVD. However,
okay,
you can purchase the DVD right now on Amazon.com for less than $7.
Holy shit. That might look. That's cheap, right?
Yeah.
But
By
this is
any
people
metric.
aren't going to be buying this. People aren't going to be buying this. You know, I hate it's actually gone up in price according to my Microsoft Shopping extension. It's gone up 41%.
Oh, geez.
In the last week. It used to be $488. Now it's $688.
Oh, we slept on it too long.
That's what I'm saying, man. It's gonna be a whole deal, dude. Nobody's gonna buy this, and then like years from now, some YouTuber is gonna be like, "Hey, what's this food fight thing?" And the prices on that DVD are gonna skyrocket.
So you might as well buy it now while the buying's good, dude.
No, that's specifically why I'm not gonna buy it, because I do not support the collector mentality. I think that it ruins everything for everyone. So I will not.
Fair enough, man.
I just wanted to point that. I just wanted to lull you into a sense of confidence that that's what I would do.
You bastard, man.
You took the bait, Steven. Ha!
Foiled again.
Damn you, Trebek.
So yeah, we finished talking about The Spirit. God, I hope it was worth it for you guys. The things we do for you people.
You people. Damn, Steven.
Our listeners.
What's that supposed to mean?
Our listeners.
Should I timestamp this?
No, the only reason you would need to timestamp it is if I said
Motherfucker. I thought you were going to reference the
or yeah, or speak ill of Nazis on my own podcast. Because apparently that gets me censored.
I am going to censor myself saying but nothing, and obviously, but nothing else.
And now you have to do it again because you said as well.
Yeah, I know. And so now every time that we reference twice, which I will not bleep twice, I have to bleep it. It's another thing I have to do.
See, and I'm on record as being against
Yeah, I know, but it's a
censoring
joke
the
now.
lambasting of Nazis because fuck Nazis.
Well, look, as long as we don't say it, what Steven's talking about is in real time, as of this recording, a couple weeks ago, during the inauguration of a certain president, that if you check out when this episode comes out, you'll know who we're talking about, gave a Nazi salute twice.
Yeah.
And that's what we're talking about. But I will never not bleep one of us saying, I will never not bleep
I
that.
referenced it a couple weeks back, and Tucker bleeped it, and I just thought it was in bad taste to censor the being rude to Nazis. I just
Well, I didn't. Well, if I could explain to you, Steven, I didn't see it as censoring, but I actually listened to that whole episode as I edited it, and in the moment while we were recording it, and upon further listening, it just really it took me out of the episode and like just made me mad about. There's another beep. It just took me out of it, and it made me mad, and it didn't belong in the episode. Just like when it came up, it was very weird and awkward and off-putting, and I just thought maybe we could start a new bleep joke with it, you know? I thought that would be better than like bringing down the episode. And it wasn't your fault. Like I set you up for it.
yeah.
I didn't mean to, but I set you up for it, you know? It's not your fault. I would have probably said the same thing. But upon reflection,
on all my social platforms now, my profile picture is GI Robot, the Nazi killing robot from James Gunn's Creature Commandos, and my banner is Captain America socking Hitler right on the jaw, because that's how I feel about Nazis.
Fuck yeah, dude! Do you remember in the Captain America movie, the one directed by the Rocketeer guy, Joe Johnston?
Yes.
Remember when they did that shot and it was cool?
Yeah. And speaking of Captain America, we might be talking about him later this month.
Oh, I can't wait. That's the guy from Space Mutiny, Steven.
Yes, Matt Salinger, son of
Beef
JD.
McLarge Huge.
Yes, son of JD Salinger.
Slab bulk chest.
Looking forward to you doing all these jokes again next week.
No, I would never.
You will absolutely. I'm not even.
I would want to, but I want to.
No,
the want is there.
You're gonna. So yeah, this has been our episode on The Spirit. Check out our social platforms. I'm getting us off of Meta. Fuck Meta. It's at this point it's YouTube, it's Bluesky, and it's Letterboxd. Find us there.
And Patreon. Come on.
And okay, yeah, patreon.com/disenfranchpod. You can join at either the free level and get access to our main feed episodes and join the official conversation of the Disenfranchised podcast, or for just $5 a month, you get access to just weeks of extra content, including but not limited to, and the promised forthcoming eternal episode of What Are We Watching? Because I've been watching movies since last June, and we haven't recorded an episode where I get to talk about what I've been watching movie-wise. So it's going to be a while. It's going to take a while.
Yeah, dude.
I've watched movies multiple times in that time frame.
As have I, actually.
Yeah.
You might be surprised to hear which ones. But yeah, that is exciting. I want to do that soon. We should commit to that soon.
We should definitely try.
Because look, we used to back in the day, like last winter, we would do not like winter 2023 there. We would do an episode of What Are We Watching and a main feed episode in one night.
Yeah.
What happened to those guys?
Y'all got busy.
Here's what I'm saying. We got to get together, purge this shit so that we can, I feel like we just need to get back on track, then it won't be as hard, because like right now it's like looming over us.
Yeah. Because
it's so much.
Yeah. It's a lot.
And like I'm excited about it, but also I am kind of like, man, that's going to be a time suck, and like Golly, but
Here's the
we'll
thing:
do it for the patrons
if
because
it's a long enough
I think
episode, we could even break it up into parts and release them separately, so it's like more content coming out.
that's true. And I would like to thank all the people who forgot that they were paying us every month.
Thank you so much.
Because without you people,
You really have a lot.
you
What do you mean, you
people.
people?
What? Our patrons, Steven.
Mm.
Oh, how the tables have turned. Yes, sir.
What's good for the goose
Indeed.
is, in fact, good for the gander.
For the grouse. Yeah. You're a grouse. Anyway.
How dare you?
Good job, everybody. Also, you could email us as well if you wanted to.
Yeah, what's that email address,
Just
Tucker?
drop us a line. That's disenfranchpod@gmail.com.
That's great.
And you can email us about anything.
Yeah.
Like, if you want to talk to us about something that we said on the show, if you want to send us like fan mail being like, I think that you're cool and good job, you could do that too. We'll probably read it. If we get it,
if we get it, we'll read
you
it.
You can send us fan art also.
Mhm.
And not to bury the lead for later, but if you're on that Tuck Mug shit, that's one way of sending us a straight up what you call that, guest mug.
Yeah.
Which again, I don't know how much longer Tuck Mugs will be a thing, but
Right.
I just hate to. I just love it. It's an institution at this point. To 38 people, Steven, it's an institution.
That's it. That's right. It is a veritable institution. Here's the thing: you could move it over. You could move it over to Bluesky, and I hear Bluesky might be coming out with their own kind of version of Instagram soon. And if that's the case, we might start posting there. So, but yeah, I'm kind of done with Meta, so I'm not really going to be updating the Instagram or the Facebooks or any of that.
Dude, I think I have to get off of all social media. And I'm just putting it off. I have to get off all social media though, because I really truly think that many of the big negative things that are happening to us as a society, as a people, as human beings, is mostly due to social media.
Yeah, you're probably very true. Right, correct.
And even I was listening to an interview with Bill Gates today on NPR. Wow, what a weird dude. But he was talking about that. He was talking about how social media just kind of blindsided us. Like, he was like, yo, like when the internet started, like we were thinking of all the possibilities and we never thought something like this, something like social networking would be such a disease and like a cancer to society. And it truly is.
Mm-hmm.
No matter how, like, even Bluesky, I don't have anything against Bluesky. I'm sure it's a fantastic platform, but still, it's there, and it's just going to end up doing the same thing as all of them do.
Yeah.
And it makes me not want to do any of it.
Well.
Yeah.
Well.
Sorry. Should I bleep all that? That kind of brought it down, right? A little bit.
It's up to you, man. You're the one editing. I'm sure you'll figure out a way to make it not seem like it's, completely.
Big downer. Big fucking downer.
Yeah, big fucking downer. Anyway, you can find me on social media. I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy. I'm on Letterboxd, Bluesky, and yeah, that's it. Letterboxd and Bluesky these days, at Chewy Walrus. Oh, yeah, and leave us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks. Tucker, what social medias are you on these days? What social medias are you trying to get off of these days?
I'm trying to get off of Instagram.
Yeah?
That's for sure. Yeah. But I am on YouTube, which I don't really consider social media. It does have some social media aspects to it, but you can those can very easily be ignored. So I am on YouTube, and I will stay on YouTube mainly because that's where I put my music, and that's where I put all the records that I'm trying to preserve digitally. So I don't think I'll ever leave YouTube, and if I do, I won't take any of that stuff down. But at the moment, you can find me on Instagram and YouTube, at Ice909. That's ICENINE, the number 0, and the number 9. Also, Tuck Mugs is still a thing. I don't know what I want to do with it, like I said before, because I don't want to shutter it. but I also don't. What if we did a zine, Steven? Should we do a zine? Like, because then we wouldn't be bowing to any corporate entity. Like, we'd just be making a thing ourselves, like a piece of physical media. Tuck Mugs the book? Tuck Mugs the book?
Tuck
the
Mugs,
coffee table book?
Tuck Mugs the breakfast cereal.
Let's start with the book, Steven.
Tuck Mugs the flamethrower.
I think we could
The
make
kids
a
will
coffee
love
table book. Like, there's a couple YouTubers who have made, like, sort of translated their videos into books that are not as good of an idea as Tuck Mugs, and they're successful. I'm looking at you, horror timelines. Like, love you, but that there's no way that shit's interesting as a book. So I think maybe
Throne.
Tuck Mugs the book. Tuck Mugs the book. The coffee table book. With all those guest mugs. Have to get permission.
That's true. Have to get some
Most
people
of
to
them
sign waivers.
Most of them are people I know. I think that I've made JP Leck enough money that he'd probably let me use his in the book.
I'm sure he would sign off on that.
I'm his cash cow, Steven. No, I'm not. You probably are.
I don't know about
Maybe
that.
both of us. It's probably you and me.
I was gonna say we're I think probably two of his more reliable collaborators.
Well, in the Halloween special, it's my roommate, but
right,
she fucking kills it in that.
That's that. Yeah,
murders it.
Yeah,
I directed that, by the way. Hi.
Yeah, look at you.
I directed that session. Yes, because Joe and I are so in sync. We've been working together since middle school. I know what he wants. I know what he wants.
He just texted me the other day. He's like, yeah, I got some projects for you coming up. So I was like, all right, cool. Well, so I'm going to probably start recording things within the next couple months for him. So
I have spoilers. He asked me to do a Patreon call, Circle City Supernatural call.
Mm-hmm.
And if you are a fan of the character I was just referencing that my roommate plays, what's that character's name? The big bad gal.
Yeah.
It's a weird name too.
It is. Hang on. I was actually just listening to
the sassy gal that he bleeps all the time.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with the podcast.
Basically the only character that cusses in any of his shit.
So much.
And she does it so much.
Fantastically. Wow. This woman, I tell you what.
Your roommate's pretty awesome. I'm just gonna throw that out there.
He's got some stuff for her, so like that character's not done. I hope that's not too much of a spoiler. Like she didn't die or anything in the Halloween special, or even like
Troxel.
Troxel. There's no mystery to whether like she's still alive. So like the fact that she's coming back isn't a huge spoiler. But
right, yeah.
I don't know when.
Some point.
But yeah,
sometime soon.
So yeah. Also, this might be maybe segue into a plug for the Elsewhere worlds. Like we were in that straight up movie, dude. And then I heard there's another one coming out.
I filmed my part for it. Have you haven't filmed your part for it yet?
Late March is when I'm going to do that.
There you go. So yeah, I mean we're both going to be in it.
Fantastic. So, it's going to be good.
And I will tell you, my segment is really fun.
You saw the
rough cut?
I saw the special effect.
Oh,
that is going to star with me in my portion.
Oh,
and
cool.
Steven, remind me after we're off mic to tell you about it.
I want to hear about it.
I don't want to mention anything.
Next time in town, I need to stop by his place and see him so that he can show me all the rough cuts and like walk me through all the props that he's built.
And you can see his creature workshop, dude.
That's always fun. Like looking at what he's working on.
When I started collaborating with this boy, like I said, back in middle school, I never envisioned him being like basically a special effects guy. Because like the writing, I get it. The directing, I get all that. I get it. But the special effects and the prop building, that came out of fucking left field. And the first one he did was the rover.
Mm-hmm.
The little with the wheels and the camera.
Oh, I know.
that dates way back.
I know. Like he showed me all those original films, and then like the
That
one that
fucking
he
Rover,
recut.
dude.
Yeah,
I'm in all of
you
those,
are.
and I'm pretty all right.
You're okay. You do.
I do okay.
Okay.
I do a serviceable job.
You do. I
Yes.
But no, did you see the creatures that my character's fighting in the sequel?
I have not.
Oh,
I have not. No, I wasn't able to go. Usually we meet for brunch, but then I'll also come to his house and hang out. And I didn't have time for the latter this last trip, so I didn't get to see anything or watch any bits of the movie. I probably in March I'll probably because I'll be there.
yeah, he'll probably have a lot
I'll
of
be
it
at his
done
house,
by
so
that point too.
I'll probably watch it. That's what happened last time. Is I watched the entire movie minus my segment because we had just filmed it.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, and that's, I mean, when I went over there, he showed me like the 3 that he had filmed up to that point when I went over to do my voice recording for the first one. So.
Did Julie do hers yet?
I don't know.
I think I just don't want to say anything. I don't want to say any spoilers.
Yeah, you know what? Let's end it now so that we don't
end
get
it so
tempted.
we can talk about this.
All right.
Quick.
So yeah, that is our episode on the Spirit. Join us next time for our very special Valentine's Day episode where our perennial Valentine, Mike Snoonian, is scheduled to return to talk about a true American hero. So until next time, I'm your host, Stephen Foxworthy, for my co-host Tucker, and the absent Brett Wright, who's just trying to stop the city from screaming. Until next time, just motherfuck this movie.
It's the city's always grumpy when it wakes up, Stephen. Yeah, that's why Brett's having so much trouble.
Right.
It's a fucking stupid movie.
Oh, it's so dumb. I hate it so much. I'm glad it's over.
Me too.